Welcome back for another episode of Cryptid Cyber. Would you believe me if I said that your company is not only not keeping things as secure as they should be, but they're often publishing and giving away the defensive blueprints that they have to the threat actors that are looking to infiltrate their systems? Well, I'm sad to say you better believe it, because it happens each and every single day. Today we're going to be talking about a concept of OSINT, or open source intelligence, that is out there, and really how threat actors actually begin their overall campaign in order to try and infiltrate systems. And this is something that actually, when we go over it today, you're probably going to think, wow, that's incredibly simple, but you're also going to probably be more aware of what's actually out there in terms of information that can be easily gathered and what can be gleaned from some of this information, and why maybe you want to take a little bit more care when you're trying to secure things from now on. Gathering of OSINT information is not really what we'd consider true hacking or threat actors infiltrating a system, but as we're going to talk about today, it can still be incredibly damaging if not protected, and if you don't navigate this digital world accordingly. All right, before we get too deep on this, let's talk a little bit about what is OSINT. OSINT is open source intelligence. These are things that are not kept confidential. There are no firewalls or encryption that are going to be protecting this information. This is information that you're going to actually see is available on the web. It might be related to the company, to yourself on your social media platforms. It might be information that is thrown in a dumpster that a lot of individuals have even gone dumpster diving for. It's that information that is actually still incredibly useful and sometimes incredibly harmful, even though it's really not perceived as very important information or data. To go a little bit deeper into this topic today, we're actually going to go over to a social media platform to really bring this to light. And we're going to show just how easy it is to find a crazy amount of information that is not just out there, but is freely given and published, easily attainable, and something that really anyone can go through and see how much of this material that really can be damaging is available at your fingertips in a matter of seconds. Going in on LinkedIn, we're actually going to navigate a little bit here, so you could do this yourself. If you go into the LinkedIn application, all you have to do is navigate to the jobs posting page. From there, I would put in, for this example, what I'm going to show you today, cybersecurity engineer into the job search. That is going to bring up a list of potential jobs, and you can actually start scrolling through some of these. Now, as you're seeing on the screen and what I'm posting here, there's a lot of different information that you can actually see as a part of these. Now, what are the HR recruiters, everyone trying to intend? They're trying to make sure that individuals have the right, proper skills, understandings, and exposure to the technologies that the companies are using. However, it's also incredibly damaging if you can see all of these things are really easily attainable and easily viewed for a threat actor. A threat actor can easily come into these scenarios and look at what your tech stack is. They're going to be able to understand what kind of an EDR are you using. They're going to be able to see components of maybe what cloud provider you're utilizing. That's incredibly important to someone who may know how to navigate a specific cloud provider. You're going to be able to understand what kind of identity and access management systems are these companies utilizing within these overall scenarios in the enterprise. These are things that, yes, they're needed skills and they're necessary for the individuals who are going to be actually working for the company and applying for these jobs, but also it's giving a ton of insight into what the company is operating on and what they're actually utilizing. And that right there is problematic because individuals are gathering a lot of information and they're waiting for any vulnerability related to any of these to be present so they can actually form a method of attack. I also want to add a couple of, moments to actually talk about things that may be part of a job posting that are going to be gold for a threat actor as well. And these are things that aren't even related to the technology stack that are actually being put into the job requisition itself. These are going to be things that are listed and posted, things like, we have a small security enterprise, so you might have something that's in the job posting saying, comfortable with a small team. Man, that's a big red flag. Comfortable with ambiguity is another one where individuals, they say, we need to have a specific amount of ambiguity or have an individual who's able to work a myriad of different things. Wearing a number of hats, that's a really, really great, red flag that their actors love to hear these things. Because what do those translate into? These are the components that translate into we're understaffed. We have individuals who cannot pay attention to one specific area because they're doing a myriad of different applications, they're doing a myriad of different tasks, and they're wearing a lot of different responsibilities. So there's not a lot of monitoring going on, as well as the fact that, we have a very stretched thin, not just department, but overall IT process because we're looking and we're broadcasting that out. Those are things that individuals are really going to be able to highlight on, and the threat actors themselves, they're going to actually utilize that to their advantage, understanding that you're broadcasting that you don't have the individuals capable to actually run a secure platform. At this point in time, you're probably wondering, well, Devin, how is this so incredibly damaging? Yeah, we understand what they're using and what's happening with it, but does that really give you that much of an advantage if you're a threat actor? And, it really can. A lot of times individuals can look at this and say, I now know what specific CVEs might affect your company. If you're not patching things accordingly, doing it quickly enough, there's an amazing backdoor that I can now utilize in order to gain access to your systems. That's an incredibly, incredibly powerful skill set and tool to have to understand what your overall company's using so you can actually process and plan your attacks accordingly. And there's a lot of different things that we kind of want to look at here. Maybe what happens within the portals associated with some of these things. What kind of APIs and vulnerabilities associated with APIs that we could utilize in order to actually attack accordingly. That is really, really problematic for a lot of different things. What kind of a luring system could be utilized with some of these things? Really, it does kind of give a game plan to a threat actor that's going to be able to understand what to do and how to do it for a company, specifically when you're putting such a fingerprint out there. A lot of individuals at this point in time will say, okay, Devin, you've highlighted some of the issues, but what are we going to do? What are we supposed to do? We still have to post jobs out there. And that's true. That's very true. We have to make sure that we're getting the right people with the right skills and the right availability to basically come in and help make our systems as secure as possible. But we need to do it in a way that we're not giving away the keys to the kingdom when we're making these kind of postings. Let's look at some examples of things that might be able to navigate us away from kind of being too descriptive to still trying to achieve the overall goal, but maybe not giving away everything. So first off is, maybe try to make sure that we're being descriptive enough about what is necessary, but we're not being too descriptive. What I mean by that is you don't necessarily need to give away all of the technology stack that you're working with or what components are working with others and what areas of very, very specific functionality are in play here. Someone who's comfortable with custom APIs, that's a big red flag because individuals that might be making custom APIs or having to utilize some of those things, that right there could show, well, we have to have someone who's making these things from scratch, and there's a lot of backdoors and things that could end up kind of coming to light with those things. That's kind of what we're talking about here. So be just descriptive enough to not give away too much information here. Another one that really is good is make sure that you're really looking for skill sets and you're prioritizing the skill sets overall, as opposed to naming the tools associated with the skills. Say you need someone with the abilities for setting up and maintaining identity and access management. Don't go into what specific tools you're utilizing for those, because that right there is where you're giving away a lot of potential weaknesses or things, especially as they emerge and evolve over time. Another idea too is make sure that you're not including unnecessary, architectural detail in things. No one needs to know what interplays with others or how it works or what version you're on or what version you're moving to, or if there was a acquisition or a migration or things like that. Those are all things that really are gold to a threat actor's, overall capabilities, because they are going to be able to utilize that to their own ends. And you don't really need to include that, especially in a job posting. You can do that in an interview or after an individual's hired. Really, you just need to make sure that you're giving just enough and nothing more. Another thing of mention here is we've used LinkedIn as an example for today's discussion. This is bigger than LinkedIn. This is all over social media. This is things that are being put into GitHub repositories. These are things that are being made public in press releases for companies. A lot of mergers and acquisitions. Those are big press notifications that go out. And those are things that individuals that are trying to actually gain access to your systems, they're paying a lot of attention to it. So you have a lot of different areas here where you really need to make sure that in today's really threat environment, you have to be able to keep information to a minimum. And yes, that's easier said than done, but that's absolutely crucial to keep your system secure in the long run. One thing I really did want to note before we start closing out, though, is I'm not making this video to try and show exploits and how to do it. I'm trying to make sure that you are all aware of what potential information is out there, what's being given away, what's being processed, and most importantly, what threat actors are actually gaining, accumulating, and utilizing against you. That's really what this is about. We're trying to bring awareness to this system, not trying to show individuals how to gain more information that is out there. Because I'll be honest, red teamers and attackers, they already know about this. What I'm trying to do is make sure that you, as an individual who's trying to make your systems more secure, I'm trying to make sure that you are aware of this. Closing this one out today, I just want to kind of leave a final thought with everyone here. Remember that your information is valuable. Your architecture is valuable. Your tech stack is valuable. All of these things are things that, believe it or not, you want to keep a lot of this as secret as you can. You don't need to go into specific details in order to gain good employees or capable employees or to do mergers and acquisitions. These are things that you need to make sure really become a part of the need to know process, because that's really where you're going to start seeing the security come and actually have a foundational component to it. It's very hard to do. I understand that. We live in a world where we try and give out a lot of information to make things easier, but we don't want to be making things easier for the wrong parties. So remember to keep yourself secure, keep your secrets secret, and make sure that you're working on a need-to-know basis for the information that you need to protect. All right, everybody, I hope this was valuable, and I hope you gained a lot of information from it. I really enjoy this, and I'm really hoping that a lot of these videos that I'm doing are giving you the benefit of making sure that you know how to keep things secure. With that being said, I wanted to say thank you, and I'll see you all in the next one. Have a good one, guys.